Hey everybody out there, it's Pastor John with your Midweek Reflection. We've been a little hit or miss lately, but we are continuing this week with our Small Packages series, where we've been looking at the smallest or shortest books of the Bible, because good things come in small packages, right? So this week we have the two smallest or shortest books in the whole Bible, and those are the second and third letters of John. Um, and as I've been preparing, one of the themes I've noticed is that John is emphasizing the importance for Christians of walking in truth and walking in love. And how difficult that is what I've been really struck with. That I think a lot of times we tend to choose either truth or love. And John is calling us to do both. And this made me think of a conflict styles assessment that I've done. And we've done it with the leadership team. And maybe we'll do it as a whole congregation at some point. Who knows? I think it's really helpful. But what this particular assessment does is breaks down how you tend to respond in a time of conflict. And they suggest that we tend to either choose one of four different approaches, and that's passive, evasive, aggressive, or defensive. And probably just hearing those, you might be like, oh yeah, that's me. And if you don't know your own conflict style, I bet a spouse or a sibling or a mom or dad or a close friend will be able to tell you your conflict style, or a boss or a coworker for that matter. What do you usually do when conflict arises? And most of us have one tendency, and maybe we have another one in our back pocket if the first one isn't working or in a different situation. But most of us go in one or two of those directions. And what I find really relevant to the truth and love thing that we find in 2nd and 3rd John is that this particular assessment breaks it down into two sides. You have the one side that overemphasizes love, passive and evasive, and the other side that overemphasizes truth, which is aggressive and defensive. And so if you're on the side that overemphasizes love, a lot of times that's the side where you're like, oh, can't we all just get along? Everyone's really good, don't worry about it. And you're just so focused on making sure no one's offended or no one is hurt that sometimes you just pass over things. You're passive or you're evasive. You just avoid conflict. You avoid truth. You avoid real problems. And if you are on that side, you can't live like that forever, right? Like a lot of times you have to deny reality and pretend, and it just catches up to you at some point. It builds up in you, and a lot of times it just explodes eventually, right? If you're on that side, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. On the other hand, you have people who overemphasize truth at the expense of love. And for those of us on this side, we tend to focus always on being right. And we want to get to the bottom of it, and we want everything out there, and we want to argue it out. What happens when we overemphasize truth is that we tend to leave a pile of bodies in our wake, that we're just interested in being right, and the argument, we forget to love people and treat people as people and not arguments. And so we get into trouble when we overemphasize truth. I wouldn't say, maybe I shouldn't say overemphasize, but when we choose one and let the other go to the wayside, truth or love. Even with the conventions this week, it's interesting. You might look at either of the political parties and say, does this party emphasize truth or do they emphasize love? And or you might look at other ways of breaking down disagreements or arguments throughout history between countries or whatever, and you might find that one of them was overemphasizing truth, the other was overemphasizing love, and not being able to hold both of those, truth and love, together at the same time. And so that's just something to think about as you prepare for Sunday. Which do you choose? Do you choose truth or do you choose love? And what do you think about John? What would it look like for you to follow John's call and Jesus' call ultimately to walk in both truth and love? As always, I look forward to worshiping with you as we live the gospel life together. Until then, may God bless you.